What it do, everybody? It's your boy Edgar here, and I'm coming to you trying something new for once. I am proposing a podcast, the official Flickitall podcast. Now, what this podcast will be about is mainly movies. So, I understand that my channel's really weird and that it has no consistent direction, but I'm a film major that happens to like video games, so this channel's kind of a shit show the way my life is. But, yeah, so the podcast will primarily be movie based. The exact structure of the way it'll work, I'll get into in a bit, but basically, the main thing is I talk about movie news and then I analyze a movie that's chosen every week. And the idea is to have a co host, so that's another reason I'm putting this prototype episode out, if you will, because I'm putting this out there hoping that somebody would be interested. Literally anyone at this point I will take to be a co host, and we can work on the show together. The intent is to release it every Monday, no specified time, but since this is a prototype episode, it won't be weekly after this. This is just to put out there for people to get an idea of what I'm going for and hopefully be interested. And going into the more specific structure of how each episode will go, it'll start with me talking about my week, and if there's a co-host, the co-host will talk about their week. And then from there, we go to movie news that's happened in the past week. And after that, we just go right into the movie, spoilers and all of our choosing. And then after that, if for whatever reason we get fans and they send in questions, we'll answer fan questions at the very end. But that's wishful thinking on my part. So, the movie I want to analyze this week is Mamaboy, as you can see by the title of this episode. Speaking of title of episode, my intentions are to primarily release this on my Foreign Disciples YouTube channel, which is where you're probably seeing it now. And in terms of just audio so far, I'm going to be setting up a SoundCloud to try hopefully release it there. But who knows how that'll work out, we'll see. But primarily, yeah, my focus is to just have it on YouTube. Everybody has YouTube, everyone uses it. It's the easiest way to get to people because I know there's a lot of people out there who are really against downloading SoundCloud for some reason. I have no problems with the app, but hey, I can't speak for everyone. And since this is only a prototype, I do not want to put this on any official services, such as, the stereotypical ones are iTunes and Spotify, and I have to look into how to do that in the first place. So yeah, that's all down the line stuff. I just hope you guys keep that in mind. Just a prototype episode. Alright, enough introducing the whole idea of the podcast. Let's get into it. So, what has my week consisted of? Well, I just started summer break, so I haven't done jack shit. The only movies I've seen recently... Oh, I saw Toy Story 4. That's the only movie I've seen, and it's fucking fantastic. I was at first really against it. I didn't see why there needed to be a Toy Story 4 after all these years when 3 was such a great conclusion, but this probably has the best script of all of them. It's really funny. It has subtle themes and not so subtle themes working together, and the ending is pretty good. People are like, oh, that ending is such a tearjerker. Oh, my eyes are water faucets. It wasn't sad. I just more so saw as bittersweet, maybe. I was more happy for blank thing happening, but I'm not going to get into that. Overall, great movie. If you haven't seen it, check it out. You probably already were, but if I'm telling you to check it out, then you're going to love it. It's just, I can't see anyone not liking this movie, to be honest, and that's really weird to say because I was its number one hater prior to its release. And other than movies, I've played some games. I tried Just Cause 4. It's okay. Sigh. I mean, crashes like once in a while, more than I think a AAA game should in 2018, which is when it came out. It came out late 2018, so it could almost be considered 2019 game. But yeah, I got it heavily discounted, so I'm not too mad about it. But it's such a shame to see a franchise like that go down the shitter. um, what else? I played, as you can see here, Battlefield 5. I do not enjoy this game that much. Even with all these new maps they're releasing, they're just not quite good enough in my opinion. I'm just really hoping that Pacific update at the end of the year will bring this full circle. But knowing DICE, I know for a fact that update isn't coming out till like maybe spring of next year. They love delaying their updates. Look at Battlefront 2, am I right? Tried out The Sims 4 for the first time. That's the first Sims game I've played since Sims 2, which I played as a little kid when it first came out on PS2. I was very bored. I was very fucking bored by the tutorial. I cannot go on for the life of me. I only made it half an hour in before I said, nah, I'm good. And yeah, I don't really do shit anymore. That just about does it for my week. So I suppose we should get right into the news. Now, I almost forgot to write this in the docket, but it just came to mind. I guess we're starting with it. Today's, for some reason, is going to be a very Spider-Man heavy news day. It just happens to be that way. I don't know why. I guess, I don't know, all this Far From Home hype is getting Sony talking. But anyways, in what to me is the most devastating, heartbreaking thing, if you guys don't know, last week Marvel was posting on their social media pages. It first started with an image of 4 written in webbing. And you don't start a countdown at 4. So people reasonably assumed, including me, oh my god, Spider-Man 4. Oh my god, is this happening? And then in the bottom left corner, you see hashtag Marvel Comics. So you're thinking, oh my god, they're going to make Spider-Man 4 into a comic. We'll finally get the conclusion we've been waiting for. And then the next day, 3. And we're like, what? Oh, okay, I guess we're counting down to the official reveal? That's weird. Okay, 2, 1. And then the day comes, and turns out, motherfucking J.J. Abrams at it again with disappointing people. Turns out he's making a mini-series of Spider-Man with his son. Now, I didn't even read into it at that point. I don't give a shit if it's a mini comic series, mini TV show. As soon as I saw that was the headline, like that's what the whole thing was, I immediately checked out. I went, nope. I can't deal with any more bullshit like this. Life's hard enough. I don't need to get my hopes up for Spider-Man 4 after a decade and just to be let down. That's fucked up. How dare you, Marvel? You knew exactly what you were doing. Nobody starts a countdown at 4. Yeah. Oh god, that really emotionally fucked up my week. That was so depressing. We'll never get a proper conclusion to the Raimi trilogy, will we? And so, speaking of Spider-Man news, segue into news that might be as depressing. Not as depressing, but it's pretty depressing news nonetheless, because looks like Sony is really wanting to cash in on the whole Spider-Man spin-off movies, as we have a Venom 2 officially in the works. Now, I have no problem with this. I am the one person in the world who absolutely loved Venom last year. It is the most solid 7 out of 10 movie I've seen in so long, because it knows exactly what it is, doesn't try to be better, doesn't try to be worse. Everyone's having a fantastic time except for probably the director, who looks miserable in all the promotional stuff that came out before Venom. But you know what? he made a good movie. Who cares? So, in quite contradicting news, Sony announces that Spider-Man spin-offs will stand on their own, including the Black Cat movie that is still planned after Morbius, which is done filming and is set to come out next summer. So yeah, they're saying, oh, all our spin-off movies are going to have nothing to do with Spider-Man and probably the MCU as a whole, the way Venom is. So basically, it seems like Venom is its own thing, Morbius is its own thing, Black Cat is its own thing. So I don't even think that the villains are going to meet or possibly even be in the same universe, which is weird considering they're villains to Spider-Man. So not having a hero to be a villain to kind of softens the purpose of them being a villain in the first place. I don't know. That's just how storytelling works, man. And so why I said earlier this is contradicting news is because in an interview with Kevin Feige, he states that he would be open to a Venom Spider-Man crossover. Now, the way he words is that obviously Venom would not be able to come into the MCU, but Spider-Man could be able to appear in Venom. And he says, quote, it's up to Sony at this point. Which means, you know, maybe Venom 2 will have Spider-Man, but it's really weird to have an MCU character in a spin-off movie, but then claim that spin-off movies are standing on their own. It's very confusing. I think maybe Kevin Feige is just saying hypothetically he'd want it to work. It's not like Sony has any plans for it. Like they said, it's up to Sony, and considering what their statement is on Spider-Man spin-offs, probably not going to happen. But the fact that it's a possibility is weird. Maybe you like it. I don't know how I feel about Spider-Man being in Venom. Before the movie came out, I was about it, but I like how Venom is so weird and doing its own thing. I think it's fine on its own. Totally fine. A buddy superhero comedy. It's fine. And speaking of movies that are in the works, apparently an Easy A spinoff is being worked on by the original writer. And what the fuck? Who asked for this? It's so late. Like, Easy, I think people like, but not many people remember it. I saw it, and I can't for the life of me remember anything about it. I don't think I liked it. But I think people have seen it more recently. Because I saw it when it first came out. I was super young. I couldn't even tell you what fucking year it came out, but people have seen it more recently, tend to like it, so maybe it's developed a small cult following I didn't know about, therefore warranting this spin-off, but hey, I don't know what to say. More movies the better. I like to say that, but at the same time, that's also a terrible mentality because then that means I support the overflooding of reboots and sequels and spin-offs, I guess, with Spider-Man and Easy A. Now there's an Easy A cinematic universe. Is Spider-Man going to show up in that too? Only time will tell. Anything's possible, it seems like. And another movie that's reported to be in the works is Halloween 2. This will be, the third time that there's a movie called Halloween 2? So when you're talking about Halloween 2, they're like, oh yeah, that one. No, you say, no, that one. Oh, you mean that one? No, that one. Oh, that one. The new one. No, the new one. Oh, like, I'm sick. I'm sick of this whole reboot by just naming it the original. People say, no, there's no problem with that. It is a massive problem, and this Halloween is exactly why. You can get away with it once. God of War did it, and for now it's fine. But when the sequel comes out, is that going to be called God of War 2? But there already is a God of War 2. Tomb Raider. It reboots, calls itself Tomb Raider. Fine. The sequels give themselves what's it called? I forgot the word, but basically like the title after the title. So Tomb Raider, Or no, no, they don't. I'm lying. I was thinking of Indiana Jones for some reason. No, Tomb Raider does it even better, actually. It's Rise of the Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. That is completely fine. Doesn't interfere with any past sequels from the original franchise. That's fine. But when you start getting into this sequel naming, it's going to confuse the fuck out of people. And that's stupid. You don't have to do that, Hollywood. Just come up with original ideas, call it something else. Halloween Resurrection, Halloween Annihilation. Like corny shit like that. People may not like the title, but hey, at least we can fucking differentiate your movies. Fuck. And in terms of movies officially in production, Bill and Ted 3 is now officially in production. West Side Story started shooting. And A Quiet Place 2 is a go. Bill and Ted 3, I just saw Bill and Ted 2 for the first time a few weeks ago. That movie's phenomenal. So now I'm really excited for what they're going to do with 3. And especially Keanu Reeves is at the height of his career. This man was in The Matrix, and people won't even remember him for that. That is how much of a hot streak he's on. They're going to remember him for John Wick, of course. You got Cyberpunk 2077. This man's on fire. So the fact that Bill and Ted 3 is coming out, I hope this good streak keeps going. West Side Story. I wanted to try out for the role of Tony in that open casting call he did, but turns out you have to be Caucasian. Now, West Side Story is one of my favorite movies of all time. And so when I saw it, I always thought Tony was Latino or Italian. He looked quite dark in the movie, so I'm like, okay, so he's like a foreigner. I could totally play him, but then the casting call said specifically a white male, and then it's fine. It totally makes sense for the story to specify you need a white male, but when the movie doesn't make that clear visually, it fucks up with my dreams now, doesn't it? All my life I've wanted to play Tony, and it fucking sucks. I probably will never be able to. But hey, maybe I'll get to see West Side Story live someday. Anyways, off tangent, Quiet Place 2. Not a big fan of the first one. Don't see why we need a sequel that is basically a prequel by showing the origin of the aliens and following another family. I don't care. Please stop. A Quiet Place made a lot of money. This one doesn't need to. John Krasinski isn't going to be in it, so I doubt the Office dumbasses are going to be too attracted to this one. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. And speaking of movies in the works, how about movies that were already in the works, worked, but were scrapped for another version? I, of course, am talking about Justice League and the infamous Snyder Cut. So, you guys have probably been hearing about this for years, all the DC fanboys claiming, hashtag release the Snyder Cut. Warner Brothers, you gotta do it. I gotta see the vision. I fuck with the vision. And, you know what? People who thought they were smart like me said, you kids are full of shit. There's no such thing as a Snyder Cut. He probably filmed stuff, but had no real thing in mind. He probably didn't even finish filming his whole thing. I mean, they had enough to make a trailer. Granted, I'll give you guys that. But turns out I may have been completely wrong, along with tons of people. Because the actor Ray Porter, who was originally cast to play Darkseid, teases his voice for the Snyder Cut, as he is apparently a supporter of the Snyder Cut being released, and I could see why, considering before the whole tragedy of his daughter and Joss Whedon coming in to do the reshoots. Once those reshoots came along and started, they completely cut Darkseid from the movie, so essentially his role was for nothing. He even completed motion capture, facial capture, and ADR recording. So like this man put in the work. He earned that bread, and for what? The fruits of his labor are not hanging from the tree of cinema, my guy. This man got the short end of the stick. So, you know, now that we're learning things like that, now I'm actually on board for the Snyder Cut. I mean, I think Justice League is an absolute sin of a movie. It is actually worse than Batman v Superman, in my opinion. The theatrical cut I hate more than anything. The extended cut of Batman v Superman is pretty good. But that's not the point. Point here is Justice League is bad, and I'm wondering if maybe, just maybe, that Snyder cut could make it just a bit better. I feel like just in the idea that Snyder cut would probably be more consistent in tone, that alone would make it a bit better than the product we got. But I'm a big fan of history, and especially movie history, like of alternate futures of what if this movie came out? What if this never happened? Like, what if River Phoenix never tragically passed and he was Jack in Titanic? Would his career be at the level Leonardo DiCaprio's is in now? And then would that mean Leonardo DiCaprio would forever be irrelevant? I don't know. Just things like that makes you think, And so, yeah, the Snyder Cut is confirmed to be real. And Zack Snyder keeps teasing about it. And with all this new info coming out about slowly revealing what happened behind the scenes, like what was being worked on before everything went to hell, really makes you think. I actually want to see it. Like I said, I want to see the Snyder Cut. Hashtag release the Snyder Cut, Warner Brothers. This is a lot of pressure on them now. Now that all of this is coming out, they're looking bad by not releasing it. It's the least they could do after Zack had to leave the project due to tragedy and personal family reasons, It's the least they could do. Anyways, that's all I have to say on the matter. Release the Snyder Cut. Poor Zack Snyder. Just throw him a bone. And next in news, Paramount lands Killers of the Flower Moon, the new Martin Scorsese Leonardo DiCaprio joint. The reason I just briefly mention this, I don't know anything. I know it's a movie that takes place in the 20s about killing of Sioux tribe members, something like I don't know. Basically, it's a movie where Leonardo DiCaprio is a killer in the 20s, which is that specific detail stuck to me out. It's very interesting because years ago, so in junior year, I read a book called Devil in the White City, which is about H.H. Holmes, I believe was his name. Sorry, I'm blanking out. It's really early in the morning, but yeah, about him killing people in this made-up hotel. Well, it was a hotel, but it's basically a fake hotel they built in a way that he could be able to get away with killing people that stay there. It was fucked up. And that was supposed to be adapted into a movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio as the main killer and Martin Scorsese directing. So this is just really interesting because what the fuck happened in that movie? I'm starting to think I'm being gaslit by the world that I read that, and apparently I guess I never read that. I guess my brain made that up because where the fuck is it? I guess they forgot. They're like, were we supposed to be adapting something? And then Leo looks at him and goes, wasn't it, and they just look around at the bookshelf and just point at Killers of the Flower Moon and go, yeah, that sounds familiar. Yeah, that's the one. And just kind of are going with it now. Like, I want my Devil in the White City movie, man. That sounds like it'd be amazing, especially with Scorsese behind it and Leo acting in it. Fuck. Can never get what you want in Hollywood, can you? Speaking of never get what you want in Hollywood, Apple plans to release 6 Oscar movies a year. I thought this was a bit of interesting news because the whole Netflix thing and Roma not winning Best Picture, even though it clearly deserved to. Apparently, Academy voters specifically went against voting for Roma because they don't want Netflix to essentially take over and be home to good movies, My 2 cents on that matter is, I don't know, maybe make good movies and release them in theaters, and you'll have good movies in theaters. It's simple as that. Netflix just happens to have a good movie from 2018. I don't know. And so it's really interesting that Apple, with their new streaming service, which is basically their response to Netflix, has Oscar ambitions as well. Very clear ones with 6. Such a specific number. Fuck, that's a lot of movies. And so, I don't know, man. Like, it's good to have ambition, but does this mean that Apple, instead of Netflix, is going to be the forerunner in this war against, what's the word I'm thinking of? Standard cinema? Like, cinema as we know it is going to change because now the prestige comes from these streaming services. And now Apple has the money. I could see them doing it. I don't see why they couldn't. It's just really weird that Apple, of all people. It's weird. These tech companies are getting too much into movies. But the problem is, they're the ones doing good. Fucking Amazon Studios sometimes releases stinkers, but then they got bangers like Suspiria and Don't Worry, You Won't Get Far on Foot. These tech companies, they're onto something, man. So have faith in Apple, I guess, which is a really fucked up sentence to come out of my mouth. But yeah, it's just really interesting that we're at a war in cinema. You got these movie theaters and streaming services are fighting, and the fists just keep coming in hard from streaming services. So that's just an interesting thing to consider. We'll see how it plays out. Bold move, Con. See how that one pays off. And in unfortunate Hollywood being Hollywood news, Max Landis, Hollywood's residential weirdo, is unsurprisingly a complete weirdo to the point that he's a disgusting piece of shit, as we have, or I've heard, but as of you've all probably heard by now, Max Landis was accused of sexual and emotional abuse by 8 women. Now, according to the Screen Rant article, this isn't the first time that he has faced allegations. Back in December 2017, around the time of when Bright came out on Netflix, Landis was accused of sexual misconduct and predatory behavior by multiple people on Twitter. And these include actress Anna Akana and the video game developer Zoe Quinn, who she herself is no stranger to controversy and being in the public. So it's very interesting that his reach has gone out of Hollywood. I don't know. Previous allegations were raised in the wake of Harvey Weinstein's scandal. So, he was just one of the many people who were, tried to be taken down during the Me Too movement. Nothing wrong with that. Just pointing out, like, this was a time where if you did something wrong, it was probably going to come out of the light. And the thing is, for some reason with Max Landis, it didn't really impact him, really. Nobody's focus. I don't know if it's because of just how much was coming out at the same time. People didn't know where to focus on, which sounds really fucked up. I think all cases are equally bad, but that's just the unfortunate truth. Information overload. What can we do with all of that? So I guess his case got brushed aside. But in a new article published by the Daily Beast, he's accused of having engaged in emotional, physical, and sexual abuse over the last 10 years or so. Among the testimonies are those by his ex-girlfriends, friends, or colleagues alleging that Landis used his money, influence, and connections in Hollywood to cover up his misconduct. He's accused of repeatedly raping his partners, engaging in psychological and emotional abuse, just absolute horrible, violent stuff, physically, mentally, and yeah, sorry to get into detail like that, but I just don't think that sugarcoating it is necessarily healthy. I understand there's that whole trigger warning aspect of this kind of stuff, but at the same time, people have to realize the gravity of these situations. It's not something simple that can be ignored by these victims. Like, this is stuff they probably have to deal with all the time, bottled up inside, guilt, shame. Couldn't even imagine what these people go through. I'm 100% with these women. God bless them for speaking up, and fuck Max Landis. But an interesting spin on this is, or not spin, interesting new layer revealed of this is that Josh Trank, director of Chronicle, which is a movie Max Landis wrote, he actually banned Max Landis from being on set, and this was back in 2012. He writes in a tweet, I 100% believe every word of this article about Max. I banned him from visiting principal photography of Chronicle, and I haven't spoken to him since 2012. To read about the terrors inflicted on so many women since then makes me sick to my stomach, heartbroken beyond measure. So with this, it's like, what did Josh Trank know back in 2012? Because the article says for about the past decade he's been abusing these women. So that, in the timeline, leaves about around 2009 all of this started. So in that time at 2012, he's allegedly been 3 years into the cycle of abuse. So did Josh Trank know about this and not, tell police or something? Was he blackmailed because of Max Landis' connections to the industry? His father being John Landis at all? Did John Landis help cover up? It's all fucking disgusting. I don't know what's going on, but I'm not liking it. And yeah, so once again, this is another story of how Hollywood's absolutely fucked up and is just covering each other's backs. Nobody can say anything because then they'll be blackmailed. So I personally don't know how to feel about this yet because Josh Trank refuses to comment on the tweet. Follow up with further comment. Like, people are asking, does this mean you knew something? What did you know? Why did you ban Josh or Max Landis? Like, why would you connect these allegations coming out to that specific thing of you saying, oh yeah, I'm not surprised, I banned him from set? So, really fishy. I'm not exactly sure what to make of it. Josh Trank knew something, definitely, but was he able to tell people? It's fucked up. Who knows what kind of power Hollywood holds over people like him? I don't know. So, but morally, though, I would say yes, it is wrong of him to have not said anything. I think it's bad. But who knows what fucking blackmails against him, what could possibly be done to him if he did speak up. It's all fucked up. Hollywood's just a fucked up machine of hierarchies and just control over everything. God, I hate it. So, to end on that bummer note in Newsweek, let's get into the movie analysis. So, as you can tell by the title of this episode, we are indeed going to be talking about Mamaboy. Now, if you've never heard of it, it's a Christian quote comedy, teen comedy if you will, about a boy named Kelly. Yes, our protagonist is Kelly, and it's all about him secretly dating the preacher's daughter, but she ends up getting pregnant. But luckily, he has a scientist uncle who helps him transfer the pregnancy from her to him. So wacky adventures ensue while he tries to cover up his pregnancy in high school. All while being the hottest guy in school, the star baseball player, and the lead of his own band, and a dance instructor. What the hell can this guy not do? So, that's just a quick way to describe the movie. So, in case you were interested in seeing it, that's for you to decide. You can use what I've just told you as info to generally summarize the movie. You can look up trailers, whatever you need to convince you if you want to see it or not. Because if you don't want to be spoiled, I will be going over everything, just talking about the movie, my thoughts, what I like, don't like, in specific detail. So if for whatever reason you want to see it, you can pause the podcast, watch it, come right back and listen to my thoughts on it. You can share yours in the comments below. And yeah, so without further ado, let's talk about this piece of shit, garbage, dumpster fire of a movie. What's really weird is that I did not know it was a Christian movie until I did some research after seeing it. Because in the opening scene, we have Mass where the preacher is just talking at extent about, oh, people must make sacrifices. And it's all just like a big, pretty decent, good joke about, like, oh, everybody's got to donate everything they can into the donation basket that's going to be going around. And so I'm like, okay, so this is definitely not a religious movie. I don't think they're that self aware where they'll criticize religion. I thought, like, you couldn't do that. They're really sensitive. Trust me, I go to a private Catholic university. They really don't like you talking shit about religion. And so, yeah, amongst that research I did, there's apparently a YouTube channel for this movie, which has behind the scenes videos and even has one of the songs from the movie uploaded. And I'll get to the music later, but basically, if you ever just wanted to know for some reason a little more about the movie, the behind the scenes stuff is all on the YouTube channel. You could check that out if you like also, because there's some pretty interesting info there. Most of it's completely useless, but there's one video talking about the cinematography. And it's apparently the cinematographer from The Conjuring working on this. Either that or Sinister. Pretty sure it's The Conjuring, but it's like some like huge horror movie. And they shot him on, is it Ari Red Dragons? I believe, something like that. But basically, if you don't know standard Hollywood cameras, it's like Ari, Alexa's, Red cameras, you know, just like those high-end 4K, even I think 8K now possibly cameras is what they're being shot, and they look really fucking nice. And so because of that, the opening montage sequence of the movie makes you think this is a real movie. It's just really nice looking shots with just a scientist walking around town and a little mouse you assume he's trying to find. The problem with this scene is that it leaves too high expectations. Like, oh my god, does he actually have access to this whole town? Seems like this has a pretty big budget for being such a low budget, or presumably low budget movie. And so, turns out that whole scene's actually pointless. It has nothing to do with anything in the story. Anyways, but yeah. So, like, it tricks you into thinking it's a real movie until you see throughout the production value is just so shoddy. Like, for example, there's a scene where the main character, Kelly, is talking to his best friend, who, you know what? Let me actually talk about the cast first. Sorry to not be going in order or anything, but it's insane. We got Kelly, who's supposed to be the hottest guy in school. He's literally the most average looking white boy I've ever seen. I don't get it. I guess he would be a heartthrob in a small town. Then his love interest, who's the preacher's daughter. She's from a Disney Channel show. Don't know what show, don't even know her name, but I already forgot that bitch's name. And then you have the best friend, who played the weird kid from Victorious with the curly hair. That GameStop employee looking motherfucker. Oh my god, I think it's just his face that makes him weird by default. I feel bad for that dumb bitch. And what else do I have in my notes? Yeah, and then you have a overly horny school nurse who hits on both the principal and students alike, and it's really fucked up. At one point, there's a school dance at the beginning. The drink, I'm not sure if the drink was spiked or if she was just drunk on her own. But basically, she was really drunk, hitting on the principal, and then she flashes her titties to the whole school with no repercussion. It's just supposed to be a, oh, you moment instead of a, hey, you just expose yourself to a bunch of underage children. We should probably arrest you. No. Everything in this movie is gross, perverted, play for laughs. Like, there's one joke where the best friend's talking to the main character, Kelly, and he's talking about, like, oh, well, because this is a scene. I guess this is where, going back to where I was talking about how there's one scene where Kelly and his best friend are talking in what's supposed to be a locker room, because the production design, which is the original point I was getting, is so shitty that it's literally cabinets. It's literally a big cabinet because the doors open to opposite sides. So, like, basically, you know how cabinets work, where the left door opens to the left, right door opens to the right. Lockers don't work like that, man. Lockers open in the same direction. So, and it was like wooden cabinets with just a shelf and like one hanger. It's really fucking absurd. They couldn't find a locker to shoot in, but whatever. So yeah, in that scene when they're talking, uh, he reveals them they secretly dating the preacher's daughter, and then the best friend's like, oh, all these girls want you, so that one weird blue-haired bitch that wants to dance with you. You dance with her, I'll go in for a pinch and go right out. Like, I think what he was implying was that while they're slow dancing, he like pinch her butt and then walk away to make it seem like it was Kelly who did it, which is fucked up. Like, this movie has a really fucked up sense of humor. It's just weird and uncomfortable for no reason. It's it's a Christian movie trying to be edgy for some reason. I don't understand that. I fucking hate this movie. It's so dumb. Fuck this movie. And I think since it's about a pregnant preacher's daughter transferring the pregnancy to a dude, I think the message of this movie is the warning of premarital sex, I think. Maybe? Still not sure what it's all about, you know? I mean, this movie's bad enough that, of course, as that stereotypical girl throws up in school bathroom during school dance scene to visually show, oh, she's pregnant, even though there's a million other ways to find out throwing up does not mean you're pregnant. I hate that trope in movies. The only movie I've seen that has ever broken that trope is St. Francis, which is fucking fantastic. Talk to the director. He's trying to get that movie released later this year, hopefully, and I want all of you to see it. Much better movie. Anyways, um, yeah, so basically shit's pointless, humor sucks, and there's in the school dance scene I was talking about where the nurse decides to get overly drunk and horny. She finds out she's pregnant. His band is performing for the school dance, and he's playing an original song. I think there's 2 or 3 original songs he does throughout the entire movie, and they're all really, really bad. And going back to the YouTube channel point I was alluding to earlier, that's one of the songs is on the YouTube channel, and it shows that because this movie came out in 2017, so like I guess when the movie first came out on DVD, if you bought it on the website, you'd get a free download to the MP3 of the hit single, whatever one of the songs was, and I just think it's so jaded. Like, the people who made this movie are so fucking out of touch. Like, how do you think that this was a good idea? How do you think people wanted fucking to download and listen to this shitty music from this shitty Christian movie? And, like, it's so dumb. For example, like, there's this reoccurring joke for no reason where the principal just farts randomly. Like, maybe it happens, like, 3 or 4 times in the movie throughout. It's just so unnecessary. And it just shows how desperate this movie is to make people laugh. And all the dudes in the movie are extremely horny. You got the snitch motherfucker Milton, who all he does is walk around with a notebook writing down all the cheesemen of everyone to report it to the principal to try to get the principal's approval, you know, because nobody else likes him. It's so dumb, because that comes into play later, of course, where he follows Kelly around and figures out eventually that he's pregnant. I hate this movie so much. So much shit happens, but none of it really is, like, matters. It's so dumb. Like, the main scientist, you think, like, he's a Doc Brown type of dude, but he barely shows up in the movie. He's only in the opening pointless credits montage where he's just walking around town looking for a rat. Has nothing to do with anything. Then he shows up in the scene where he tells Kelly, hey, I have this new experiment I've been working on, which is the inciting incident, I suppose. Really, oh, could that work on humans? He's like, we'll try. So then that's how he becomes pregnant, because the scientist transfers the pregnancy from the girlfriend to him. And then he just kind of fucks off for the rest of the movie. Hilarity ensues as we see a high school boy trying to cover up the fact that he's pregnant. He's no longer the hottest guy in school. He's no longer the star baseball player. And the baseball coach is played by Gary Busey. I don't know how to say his name, but he's in this movie. Like, I'd say collectively, he has about a minute of screen time. It's so dumb. It's so pointless. They just wanted to have a big name to seem like they're a legit movie. It's fucked up. Gary Busey will do anything for a check these days, I suppose. And so, yeah, he's pregnant. And then at one point, there's an unnecessary like third act turn where the girlfriend gets mad at him, saying like, "You're embarrassing me in front of the whole school." Even though they're not publicly together, I don't know why she would be embarrassed because nobody knows about them. But yeah, then she's like, "I want my baby. It's my baby. I want to have the pregnancy." Now it's like, what the fuck? The whole point of this movie, he did everything. He sacrificed and lost everything for you, and you're being a total bitch about it. Fuck her. And so, yeah, it seems like they've broken up. Maybe not, but he still has her baby. And so then, Milton, the snitch, there's another school dance. And prior to the school dance, since he's pregnant, he doesn't have anything that'll fit him to wear. So he goes to a maternity store to try to find, pregnancy clothes to wear to the school dance. It's a whole scene played for laughs, I think, and it's so pointless. But eventually he finds something, goes to the school dance, and at that school dance, the Milton snitch motherfucker comes running in and just yells, "Kelly's pregnant!" And so now the world knows Kelly's pregnant, and then everybody thinks he's a whore and he's weird and whatever, except for his dad, who has to talk about faith and a heart-to-heart conversation with him. It's really dumb, just to remind you, hey, this is a religious movie, don't forget. And then, yeah, like, then the preacher's really mad at him, calling him, like, a walking sin and shit like that. It's like, what the fuck? And what's the absolute most fucked up part is that I can't for the life of me remember how this movie ends. Oh, speaking of how the movie ends, so in the scene where the preacher's condemning Kelly, Kelly's family goes to church, right? And by this point, Kelly's wearing a button-up that fits his pregnant physique. So you're telling me for the school dance he had to dress in really weird clothes, but for church, he was able to find normal clothes perfectly fine that fit him. If you had a button-up that fits a pregnant body, why don't you just wear that button-up to the dance and just put on a tie and pants that fit a pregnant body too? Fuck, this movie's so beyond me. It's such a fucking disaster. And so after that, the world sees him differently, but like I said, his dad still loves him. Like, a preacher to talk shit to a kid's face in the middle of mass is so weird. It seems very unchristian-like. But, anyways. Yeah, so... Oh! I almost forgot. At one point, Kelly goes to the school nurse, and then that overly horny nurse detects 2 heartbeats in him, so therefore she finds out that he's pregnant. Or that he's pregnant. And in that scene, she's like, "I don't mind." Like, she's hitting on him hardcore, and it's really gross that this school faculty member is fucking hitting on a minor. Well, he's 18, but still, like, he's a student. That's so fucked. I hate it. That just came to mind because in the end, he gives a graduation speech, whatever, and then he has the baby, like, right after. And it's supposed to be some, like, sweet moment. Everyone's there to cheer him on because I guess they really liked his graduation speech. Seriously, fuck this movie. The cinematography's fine for the most part. The editing's really weird because it has, like, it's too many cuts in my opinion. You cut shot, reverse shot, 2-shot, just in an endless loop. And 2 shots I feel like shouldn't be overused. Those should mainly come towards the beginning and the end, or when you're trying to show maybe like the surroundings of the characters. But this movie doesn't know shit about editing, I suppose. Acting's really weird. Dialogue's insanely weird. Nobody talks normally. All the dudes are overly horny, so I guess the writer just thought, yeah, all high school dudes are horny. All high school girls want the hottest guy in school. Everybody's horny, I guess. I don't know. It's just such a dumb way to write teenage characters. This movie's dumb. I hate this movie. I don't even consider it to be a real movie. This is actually a sin against religion, and I don't even like religion as it is, so to make a sin of a sin is a third level sin, I guess. Not even second level. You skip to third level because that's how fucking bad this movie is. Like, if you want to check out the hit music from the movie, you can check that out. If you want to check out the movie, I saw it on Tubi, which is a free movie and shows app you can watch on, like, Xbox One, PS4, your phone, browser. I'm not sponsored by them in any way. I love to be, but that's just what I use to watch shitty movies, because they have a great collection of those. If you're ever in the mood for that, they actually have pretty good movies sometimes, like really obscure ones, like Mads Mikkelsen's The Hunt. They have Daniel Day-Lewis's The Boxer, stuff like that. So some movies I'm going to be talking about on this podcast will be coming. I'll announce where I saw it, so that if you want to see it, you can watch it too. I suppose I probably should have said this earlier, though, because it's way too late, because the people who did want to see it before continuing listening to this podcast would have wanted to know that earlier. But hey, this is the first trial run of the whole podcast thing. I'll make sure to say that earlier, actually. But yeah, overall, this movie is shit. I don't think it's worth watching. I had to watch it a second time for this podcast because I actually recorded already this second version of me talking about the movie, and all I did was accidentally like try to recount the whole movie, but I couldn't remember anything, so it was just completely out of order and shit. And so I realized that wasn't good, so this is a little bit better. I took notes, I suffered through it twice, and this is basically like all I had to talk about because the whole movie's so stupid. I'm not going to go into detail about every single little thing. Hey, so after this point in my recording, the audio just decided to completely blow out and get staticky, so I'm just going to record over this last part real quickly. Once again, fuck this movie. That's my take on it. It's really not worth watching. Even out of curiosity, I promise you're not missing on anything. And normally in a real podcast episode, this would now be the part where I take fan questions, and then after that is when my co-host or I would alternate each week of recommending a movie. And since I don't have a co-host, I'm not going to be recommending a movie this week because I'm not sure when the first episode will be, because once again, keep in mind, this is a prototype episode, just a proof of concept, not the exact real thing. And if there's anyone, literally anyone interested in being a co-host, feel free to reach out to me. We'll figure out something of how to contact each other. Just comment below if you'd like to be a co-host. I'm willing to do anything. We can just, Skype call it. If you're in the area, we can meet up and record in person or whatever. I don't know. I'm willing to work anything because, as you can see, I cannot do this one-man show thing. It is very difficult. I need somebody to riff off of, I need to have dialogue, conversation. And so, yeah, even if you don't think you're cut out for it, even if you think you're just some casual movie fan, I promise you, your input is just as important because, for example, we'll watch obscure movies and we can talk about, like, how does this compare to movies you usually watch if you don't really watch movies? Like, what does this make you interested in checking out more movies in general, more movies like this, stuff like that. So, literally, there's a possibility for anyone to be a co-host, I promise you. It's fine. And yeah, thank you so much for checking this prototype episode out. You can kind of get an idea of what I'm going for here. And if you want to be a part of the journey, just hit me up. And even if, for whatever reason, multiple people try to reach out to be a co-host, there's also possibilities where I'll just bring in random people as guests. Because Lord knows I don't have the reach to get famous people, or at least internet people, to be on as guests yet, so I'll just take normal people. And yeah, once again, thank you so much for checking this out, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.